Hello, hi, привit, and welcome at another episode of Chop Chop Ukraine. Since the whole world is talking about the ceasefire in Ukraine, I wanted to make this episode and analyze with you together how possible is the long-lasting and secure ceasefire in Ukraine with Russia, the country who has been involved in more than 12 different international conflicts and wars in their past 40 years. And also, not only they were involved, and most of them, they actually initiated. The ceasefire development is an important step in the ongoing war between Ukraine and Russia. But is it actually possible to make this ceasefire agreement efficient? As we know from the historical perspective, the ceasefires with Russia almost never ended with a long-lasting peace and actual benefits for the country from whom this territory was taken. As I mentioned, over 4 decades, Russia has been involved into various different international conflicts and wars. At the beginning, I wanted to discuss with you the civil war in Georgia, which took place between 1991 till 1993. Initially, the South Ossetia, which is a historically Georgian territory, was trying to proclaim independence with the support of Russian military groups. This is a typical Russian strategy. So basically, South Ossetia declared independence later with the Russian support. The same happened with Abkhazia. Abkhazia also began with the conflict supported by Russia, and the ceasefire was signed in 1994, basically to stop fighting, and this didn't prevent Russia attack and invade Georgia in 2008.
In full regime of self-defense against unfounded and totally legitimate aggression from the Russian Federation.
Russia has invaded a sovereign neighboring state and threatens a democratic government elected by its people. The Georgian government has accepted the elements of a peace agreement that the Russian government previously said it would be willing to accept. An immediate ceasefire, the withdrawal of forces from the zone of conflict, a return to the military status quo as of August 6th, and a commitment to refrain from using force.
The other example of Russian involvement to take a tasty piece of someone's land is Transnistria. Transnistria is a historically Moldovan land. They actually had a lot of factories there. So after the collapse of Soviet Union, with the Russian support, separatists in Transnistria started the war, and the ceasefire agreement was signed in 1992, resulting in the frozen conflict, unrecognized territory by international organizations, which is remaining at the same status now. Let's discuss the conflict in Chechnya. Chechnya was an independent state and independent country since Russia invaded it in 1994.
Yes, historically, Little Chechnya has always been the rock that breaks Russian policy and ambitions in the Caucasus.
I don't think you can overestimate the importance of what the 1944 deportations meant for the Chechens. Possibly the only proper comparison is what the Holocaust means for Israel. Chechnya was basically wiped off the map. It didn't exist for 13 years. There were no Chechens left in Chechnya.
So Russia wanted control, they wanted expansion, they invaded Chechnya, but they faced a strong resilience from Chechen people, and the first Chechen war was actually lost with the ceasefire signed. This didn't stop Russia in attacking Chechnya once again, and this time Russia won. So now Chechnya is officially part of Russia, and if you didn't know, Chechen people are now fighting in Ukraine on the side of Russia. So just like Putin wanted the control over Caucasus region, Putin wants control over Ukraine.
Putin was losing political influence over Ukraine. So he decided to use force instead. First, he invaded and annexed Ukraine's Crimean peninsula. Then, Russia-backed separatists captured the regions of Donetsk and Luhansk and declared them independent of Ukraine. Since then, Ukraine has been locked in a conflict with Russia that has killed 14,000 people and displaced nearly 2 million. For nearly 8 years, Putin has held on to these regions, destabilizing Ukraine and keeping it from moving closer to the West.
So, after Ukraine signed the agreement with EU to actually get closer to European Union, already in 2014, our Prime Minister on the conference with other leaders of European Union and probably world leaders mentioned that annexation of Crimea might not be the end goal for Russia.
God knows where is the final destination. Is it Ukraine or is it the EU?
At that time, we were advised to not use a strong language because the world wanted to continue making business with Russia and having all the benefits. So they thought that Russia can be stopped, and they basically closed the eyes on the annexation of Crimea. Doing business with Russia and neglecting their annexation of Crimea and the war in Donbas, which were lasted 8 years before Russia put in the full-scale invasion in Ukraine, didn't stop Russia. Nothing stopped Russia. And if you may wonder, Ukraine held over 200 peace talks with Russia and more than 20 ceasefire agreements since 2014 were held with Russia, and it didn't stop her from their full-scale war with Ukraine.
Ukraine announced a state of emergency, and President Zelensky made a direct appeal to the Russian people.
Война лишит гарантий всех. Гарантий безопасности не будет больше ни у кого. Кто от этого пострадает больше всего? Люди. Кто этого не хочет больше всего? Люди. Кто может этого не допустить? Люди.
Hours later, on February 24th, Putin launched a full-scale invasion in Ukraine.
So, till now, Russia was successful in destabilizing Georgia. They won the war with Chechen and almost destroyed the whole destroyed the whole nation, expanded in Caucasus region. The world closed eyes on annexation of Crimea, the war in Donbas, and are not showing any signs of putting a stronger stance on Ukraine now. Why do you think Russia would stop now? Let me also put it clear for you, and let's discuss their ambitions and motivations of Russia in this war. The first and the most maybe important, or all of them are actually important, but the first and driven ambition of Russia is actually geopolitical ambition. Putin associates himself with Peter the Great. Look what he is talking on the press conference about Russian geopolitical situation and how they need to return what is theirs.
Вот Петр I Северную войну 21 год вел. Казалось бы, там воевал со Швецией, что-то отторгал. Ничего не отторгал. Он возвращал. Он когда заложил новую столицу, ни одна из стран Европы не признавала эту территорию за Россией. Все признавали ее за Швецией. Чего полез туда? Возвращал и укреплял. Вот что делал. Вот. Ну, судя по всему, на нашу долю тоже выпало возвращать и укреплять. И если мы будем исходить из того, что вот эти базовые ценности составляют основу нашего существования, мы, безусловно, преуспеем в решении задач, которые перед нами стоят.
But what is actually theirs? The Mongolian president in 2024 made the joke out of Russia, actually finding the Mongol old maps and showing Russia where they were when Mongolian Empire existed. So with this driven geopolitical stance, Russia thinks that Ukraine is just the territory of their own.
Украина целиком и полностью была создана Россией.
Putin has long claimed Ukraine belongs to Russia and they are one people.
We're not just close neighbors, we're one nation.
But Ukraine is a sovereign nation with its own language, culture, and political system. And while the two...
We have never been the same nation. We have never shared the same history, except of the ones when Russia actually invaded us and was claiming that we are brothers. Even this thought makes me nauseous. So this is the first one. Another one is that Russia just doesn't want Ukraine to exist. They want to destroy us, they want to destroy our cultural heritage and do the same thing what they did with Chechen and the same thing which they are willing to do with another countries who can fall under their rules.
Putin's maximalist demands in Ukraine have not changed. He wants to destroy Ukraine as a country, and he does not want it to become part of NATO and the European Union.
And the last but not least is actually money. Russia doesn't produce anything. They just rich in resources and they want to get richer by invading other countries and stealing resources from these countries. Have you ever thought that Russia already spent so much money and so many people on this war, but think about it, how they will compensate all these 3 years' efforts if they will not win Ukraine and win these trillions, crazy amount of money which is in Ukrainian national resources. So why they really want to listen now to anyone and stop? At the summary of this video, I wanted you to think about what I mentioned earlier, about the past conflicts of Russia, about what Putin is saying in press conferences and how other ceasefire ended with Russia so far. And maybe you already know the answer how possible is a ceasefire in Ukraine now. I don't think all of the sudden it will be a success, and also we hear now that Putin doesn't want it basically. But let me know in the comments below what you think. If you found this video interesting and insightful, and I hope that you will subscribe, and I will see you at another episode of Chop Chop Ukraine. Bye bye.